All right, folks, we're going to go ahead and get started this evening. The first item before us this evening is a public hearing. In regards to the public hearing, what I would like to do is lay out some of the rules that we'll observe tonight in that regard. You were asked to sign up prior to the public hearing to speak tonight, and I want to make sure that everybody was aware of that and understands that. And if you desire to speak and have not signed up yet, you'll need to see our clerk, and I'm going to give you that opportunity to do that right now if you would like to sign up to speak in regards to our public hearing. This is going to be in regards to an ordinance to change the zoning classification of property owned by the Greer Baptist Association located at 309 West Poinsett Street from RM1 residential multifamily to OD office district. This comes before us this evening as second reading, and this public hearing was scheduled in regards to comments specifically to this ordinance. We set aside a time in our regular meeting for public forum, which is an opportunity to speak to items that are on the agenda. Tonight we are going to deviate a little bit from that, inasmuch as if you would like to speak to the zoning issue on West Poinsett Street, you'll need to do it during the public hearing time. We'll entertain items of public forum relative to the agenda later on in the meeting, but feel like that we'll offer the appropriate time for those that want to speak to do so in the public hearing. In regards to the public hearing, we typically would allow comments to be capped at 3 minutes. It is the option of the council to entertain a longer period of time, and it is offered that an additional 3 minutes may be adequate to take care of that. And so in that regard, we would ask that your comments be appropriate to this evening, understanding that we have 11 people that wish to speak. And so in that regard, I would ask you to keep your comments concise and brief. But as you do approach the 6-minute mark, our clerk will indicate when 5 minutes is reached, and then I will end comment at 6 minutes. So in that regard, what we'll do is I will ask, as listed on here, from those that have signed in for the public hearing, we will alternate as best we can so that contrasting views can be heard. I would ask that when you come to the podium for your opportunity to speak, that you, as a matter of record, give us your name and address, and then you are free to address council. With that then being said, and the ground rules being laid for the public hearing, I want to call the public hearing to order. This is a public hearing in regards to ordinance number 36, 2013. This is an ordinance to change the zoning classification of property owned by the Greer Baptist Association located at 309 West Poinsett Street from RM1 residential multifamily to OD office district. At the conclusion of this public hearing, we will move on to our regularly scheduled session. With that, I'd like to ask our first presenter to come to the podium, please. That would be Mr. Chuck Langston.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, my name is Chuck Langston. I live at 509 Bluebird Lane, Greer, South Carolina. I come before you tonight to ask you to rezone property owned by Greer Baptist Association that is currently RM1 to office district. This property was designed and built in 1961 by the Greer Baptist Association. It has been used and maintained by them as an office building for this entire time. and it is a reasonable request. As you know, West Poinsett Street is a mixture of office, C1, C2, and all up and down from Ryan's all the way through downtown Greer. I ask you to please to give us that OD zoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Maria Lynn.
My name is Maria Lynn, and I live at 107 Mimosa Drive. That used to be Pennsylvania. In case you don't know, it's Mimosa now, and there are actually three houses on our street now, and it's right there at Greer State Bank, close to Greer State Bank and Riller Inn on Poinsett. I'm just going to tell you what it feels like to have an office building beside me. Mr. Newell lived there previously, and Joe Kraft and I, we've just been there forever. But Joe Kraft has a hedge, I had a hedge. And he cut the hedge, my hedge down, because it was on the line, I guess, between Mr. Newell and myself. And of course, Joe has hedge, and he put up a privacy fence. Well, Dr. Benzel put up Leland cypress trees. I'm a master gardener, and I know that that's not desirable because he put it right on the property line, and he has 6 foot that goes on his property and 6 foot that goes on my property, which took away my garden spot. And then he doesn't have adequate room for the cars to go around and park on back. I don't know why it got blocked for him to come off there and Tippin Road, but he now has the parking lot in front, parking lot in the back, and they hit my fence, and it's been replaced twice. He wants me to put up a black chain link fence, and I don't want a chain link fence. I like a little country wooden one. But I just wanted to, other than that, I mean, the parking and the going in and out, well, I do. They do. They throw cigarette butts in your yard. The people, you know, that's not Dr. Benzel, that's his patients. And sometimes they'll leave their Coke cups and stuff on your yard. So, I mean, you know, it's a little bit. And he cuts my dogwood trees to keep his signs visible. And so he butchers them, so I started cutting them myself. But I think if anybody in Greer has a small lot, they should not be allowed to put Leland cypress trees because they do take up so much space. They're real little when they're little, but then they grow up quite big. So, and that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Keith Kelly.
My name is Keith Kelly. I am privileged to live at 177 Lemon Creek Drive, Lyman, which of course is within the city limits of Greer. Mr. Driggers, Mayor Danner, and the most honorable members of Greer City Council, please permit me to simply say thank you for the privilege to stand before you once again and speak on behalf of the 84 churches which make up the Three Rivers Baptist Association. For over 5 decades, this property in question at 309 West Poinsett Street has been an office building. The likelihood of this building ever becoming a disruption or distraction is probably as great as any of the other existing office buildings which already line up both sides of the street from one end to the other, becoming a disruption to our city. Now, hear me out. I'm not a realtor, nor am I the son of a realtor. However, I would like to say, if I may, anybody who is interested in the purchase of this property, including any of the neighbors near this property, We would love to sell it tonight. But the drama has got to end before the negotiations can ever begin. Let it be said, in the spirit of consistency and prudence, it would only make sense to sell an office building to somebody who's going to use it as an office building. My most sincere request out of each and every council member is very simple. Let's just allow some good old-fashioned horse sense to give us the stability to enjoy the liberty of selling this building for what it is. Thank you in advance for seizing the chance to simply do the right thing. Not just for a group of local churches, but for the betterment of the city of Greer. Please remember that out of the many ways that I could have addressed you this evening, first and foremost, it was as a grateful citizen of what I believe unashamedly to be the greatest city in South Carolina. God bless you, and good night.
Thank you, sir. Dolores Whittington.
My name is Dolores Whittington. I live at 1009 West Poinsett Street, where I have lived since October 4th, 1959. My home is probably 70-something years old. I moved in as residential and had hoped that it would stay residential. And gradually, piece by piece, there have been exception here, exception there. And I'm wondering how, after you get everything is office district, how long before you are going to reach out for something else. I do have a business next door, it's a chiropractor's office, and there is a lot of traffic back and forth. If I had children, I would be very much concerned, but I have raised my 4 girls in this area, and my grandchildren aren't that close by, but I am concerned about traffic in office districts, and I mean different things, as some of the others that's already stated. And this is, I guess, all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mark Cannon.
Hi, Mayor and Council. My name is Mark Cannon. I'm a pastor at Lake Cooley Baptist Church in part of the Three Rivers Baptist Association. I spend most of my time here in Greer, where our church members reside, and I just want to speak in favor of this zoning change simply for the fact that it has already been used in this capacity for 53 years. It's not been an issue to the neighbors for quite some time, as long as they've been there, until we put it up for sale, which at that time they also had an opportunity to purchase the property. But I would like to speak in favor of this because it really isn't a change. It's what we've already been doing for quite some time. Thank you.
Is Aaron Williams?
Thank you. I'm Erin Williams. I reside at 401 West Poinsett Street, across the street from the Greer Baptist Association's old building. I have something for City Council members to consider looking at. It's photographs of the interior of the building, which were taken immediately after the last hearing that we had concerning the property. And at that hearing, Randy Bradley, who's executive director for Three Rivers Baptist Association, stated that it was still in use, that they still have equipment phone set up in there. We called the telephone. It was forwarded to their new location over in Simpsonville, and the lady who answered said, "Oh no, we haven't been there for quite some time." And the day after the hearing, I went over and took some photographs of the interior, which you can clearly see that it's vacant. So I'm going to make that part of the record here. This verse is just a collage of the residential property that surrounds Greer Baptist Association. It was first for sale by owner. They couldn't sell it because they were demanding such a high price. I'm only saying that because they brought up the purchase opportunity issue. We would have liked to have bought it, but it's just too high. In fact, we have made a written offer, but we could not reach an agreement. And I wouldn't have brought that up except that they did. So these are photographs of the interior. And I'll just pass it along.
Ms. Williams, if you want to leave those, we'll be glad to look at them. Your
Yes,
comments
thank
can't be
you.
recorded
But
if you're up here.
There are many rooms that are clearly vacant. So, and then I have the other photographs of the better photographs of the neighbors. But this was taken the day after Mr. Bradley stated it was in use. Those are the residences around. They're all residences. I do appreciate the opportunity to speak again. I have lived there since 1991. We have 4 children. I had 2 of them I brought home from the hospital to that home. We took out a loan based on the state of South Carolina's tax incentive to go out and borrow 50% of the appraised value and reinvest it in the property. It had to be approved by Greer City Council and the mayor, which at the time was Don Wall, and Kim Westmoreland was the city administrator. I approached them and I said, what about this? The state of South Carolina wants us to have historic properties in our state. And they said, yes, we would love for you to do that. And they signed off on it immediately at a hearing. We went out and obtained the loan. We've invested a great deal of money in our home. We're still working on it 20 plus years later. Had we foreseen tonight, we probably would have given it a second thought. However, at the time, the city of Greer was very interested in architectural properties and passed ordinance, which today is in place, which has buffer zones, lighting restrictions, signage requirements. We also had Board of Architectural Review, which came into place. My husband served on that. I believe he was the first president. So when this came up before the Planning and Zoning Board and they unanimously said no to the application based on their reading of the code, their knowledge of the property, the presentation before them of all the properties around it, restrictions, buffer zones not in place. There's not 15 feet between them and the neighboring adjoining property. And now they're cutting off the property to the rear of the subject property, which is really a bigger footprint, but they want to cut off part of that and put in a duplex or something, I guess. Trying to squeeze as much into it as they can. It's no longer a church, which got an exception to the residential zoning because it's a nice thing for God to have a church and a small association in support of the community. It's now, what, 80? Did you say 84 churches? That's not even located in Greer, it's in Simpsonville. They want to get top dollar. They don't care about our little town. It's just the way it is. Now we have endured, I don't know if I'm coming up on my 6 minutes, I probably am, But the statement was made that it's not going to be any worse than any other OD. Well, they've had not OD for all these years, but an exception to residential, because it was a nice thing to have a little Greer Baptist Association in support of a little town at the time. Our town is growing up. We have a limited number of historic resources we need to hang on to, including our property and those other homes around us. Plus, there are more down on Davenport that face Poinsett Street. There's one down by the post office. 2 got torn down. It's sad. And I just ask you to please, please, please think about it. We're not going to have any more of these 1923 houses popping up with people pouring money into it if you do this stuff.
Thank you, Ms. Whitman.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak and to consider the photographs.
Tom Capps.
Good evening. My name is Tom Capps. I live at 810 Summit Drive in Greenville. I'm the Missions Ministry Director for the Three Rivers Baptist Association, served Greer Baptist Association for 7 years, a member of Victor Baptist Church, which is here in Greer. I do not live in Greer because my family grew up in Greenville, but as soon as they are okay with that, I want to move to Greer. I love this town. You've done a great job with it. Mr. Riggers, Mayor, Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak before you tonight. Greer Baptist Association has existed for 53 years, and 50 years ago, actually 52 years ago, the property was purchased and an office building was put up to coordinate the work of the association, which now, up until May of this year, represented 40 churches in the Greer area. 40 churches that are working together to minister to the needs of people in this area, to help one another. We merged on May 2nd, and it was official July 1st, with the churches of the North Greenville Baptist Association, which represented 40 churches in the northern part of Greenville County. Simply because two associations working together to be more efficient and effective with resources, and we represented very similar areas. We now are 86, actually as a result of Sunday night, 86 churches instead of 84. But we go all the way from Reedville to Gap Creek. And our offices are not in Simpsonville. They are currently at Ennery Baptist Church on Tigerville Road in Travelers Rest. Our new office will be built on land at the intersection of Highway 290 and 253. Once the sale of this building is complete and we begin construction of that next year. That ministry center will be located in the exact center of this geographic area that serves these 86 churches, which represent over 36,000 residents of the area. Churches that are seeking to work alongside of you in making this indeed the best place to live, not only in South Carolina, but the United States. And it is an honor to serve here and be a part of what God has been doing in this city. Our neighbor's home is a beautiful home, and they've done a fine job with that home. And I could imagine one time, I didn't live here, but I could imagine Poinsett Drive being one home after another that looked like that. It's a shame years ago that we didn't preserve that. But now it is a mixture of commercial and office and residential usage. All we're asking you is that you honor the usage of this building as it has been used as an office for the past 50 years, to be able to continue to do so and to conform the zoning to its current usage. It was designed as an office building. It's always been used as an office building. It's not really suited to use for anything else other than office building. And we hope that you'll go ahead and grant this change so that we can move forward with the sale of this building and our plans for our new building. Thank you for the opportunity to share with you.
Thank you, sir. Jim Brown.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Jim Brown. I reside at 305 West Poinsett Street, and I'm here to give my opinion concerning the rezoning of the property at 309 West Poinsett Street. My wife Nancy and I are lifelong residents of Greer, and in 2012 purchased property at 305 West Poinsett. Prior to our purchase, the property had been zoned commercial and had been occupied by a failed business. The house sat empty for about 2 years, and then along that, from the fact it was a commercial business, we had to make major changes inside the house before we were able to occupy it. Also, in addition, the yard had been cited by the city of Greer for being for grass and weeds being out of control. In spite of these issues, we decided to take on the challenge of renovating and restoring the house to its 1901 beauty. After considerable time, money, and effort, we are well on our way. After learning of the commercial zoning request of the 309 West Poinsett property, it made us question our decision to invest in the neighborhood that we thought was residential. As you drive up West Poinsett, there are numerous commercial properties that are sitting vacant. Adding another one does not make sense to me. We purchased this property to live in peacefully for the rest of our lives, then pass it along to our children and our grandchildren. In closing, I ask each of you to put yourself in our shoes, or in this case, our homes, our street, and our neighborhood. If you were in this situation, what would you do?
Thank you, sir. Randy Bradley.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you for allowing me to speak to this. We don't take it lightly, but we do have this privilege to come and share our side of the situation here. Basically, all the folks that come up and said the same thing. The Greer Association has owned this property since 1961. From that time it was built, it was made to be an office to house staff that coordinated work of our Southern Baptist churches in the Greer area. The Lord has changed some things down through time, and now we've come together with another association, and it's brought by the time to go ahead and move out to another central location where all our churches are. We stand on the fact that Greer, City of Greer issued permits to build existing office buildings. We got reports of that, and also that parking lot, we did everything out in the open, and it was from the very first day. It was not a house modified for office. It was an office in the very beginning. It was built to allow our churches to have a part in the Greer area here in the city and outside of the city to be used to reach people, help people with the needs that they've got going on. We've had offices there Monday through Friday, 8:30 until 5 p.m. Our way of operating changed somewhat once we came together on July 1st. And it is true that we, after selling the building on the first day of August, we took the main equipment from our office out because we were told that the building was sold. I have a contract here that shows that the building was sold, and a $5,000 check for earnest money was given to the Langston Black Real Estate Company. The building was sold for $185,000. Sold rather quickly for that price. I believe it's a price that can be easily be attained. And so the word we got, this is a deal that's pretty imminent, and so let's go ahead and get things going. So what we did, we took some of our equipment and moved it to the temporary facilities we have now. When it became evident that it wasn't going to work out because we didn't receive the commercial zoning that our neighbors, 4 neighbors across the road have, that we didn't get that, and the buyer decided he wouldn't buy it if he didn't have that zoning. That's understandable. And as I said last time, I understand. Disappointed, but I understand. If my neighbor next door would get that, I'd be concerned about the future too. I understand that. Knowing that that was the case, we as an association began to think, okay, how can we use that building? We haven't been there every day, but we've been there. We don't have all the facilities. We still have desks in that office. It's kind of concerning. I don't know. There must be a really good camera to take pictures inside of our building to get those that you're looking at right there. But if you look at it, we do have meetings there. And you'll be excited to know we're excited. This afternoon, an agreement was met with the church, the Monte Vida. Pastor Marcel Marquez starting tomorrow, and we put him sign up. We'll be using that as an outreach for the community there, and we're excited about that. It's a very quality ministry, the way that we can reach out while we're waiting. We don't anticipate selling this building anytime soon. It's probably going to take a while. But what we're asking you is to help us so that when it does sell, and we're able to wait, I'm thankful for that, and we're not forced to do anything. We're asking you just to give what we had from the very beginning and let the building be classified as office district. We've not changed anything. That's what it was the whole time. I really don't anticipate any problems. I feel like that area there, as you come up, and again, I tried to count all the buildings I was going to come to tonight, the exact number of commercial buildings, and I just forgot where I was, so I can't give the exact number, but there are a lot of them. And our building has always been considered one of those offices. And I just ask you that you would allow us to continue to have that. Again, we thank you for hearing us. The folks that are back here, I guess we've all said the same thing, because they're just some common sense decisions, and I think this is one. I thank you for considering us tonight.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Perry Williams.
Mayor, Council, my name is Perry Williams, 401 West Poinsett Street in Greer. Mr. Bettis, thank you for allowing us this public hearing. Pleasure to be here tonight. This is not about common sense. It's about the law, and the law is very clear. And I apologize, and I'm not ringing my bell or tooting my horn, but I'm probably the foremost authority on zoning in this room, with one exception, and that's Mr. Griffin. I'm going to tell you why right now. I'm a graduate of the South Carolina Municipal Association of Elected Officials Institute, a graduate of the South Carolina Economic Development Institute. I'm a member of the Greater Greer Economic Development Board. I'm on the board of directors of the Greer Trust. I'm a commissioner of public works. I'm a former member, founding member of the Board of Architectural Review, and a former city councilman. And Councilman Griffin and I contributed to and voted on and passed this zoning ordinance that we're using today in 1999. We're the only two in this room that had anything to do with writing, contributing to it, and passing it. And we know what's in it. And it's good law, it's good legislation, and it's very concise and specific. And there's no question that the Greer Baptist Association has been a blessing to this community. And it's been a very quiet little office there, and there's no question that they were giving residential zoning because they were surrounded by residential properties, and that they were given a special exception, something called a non-conforming use, and that non-conforming use is the question today. The property that the city has, and this is about commercial zoning, it's not about OD, and I'm going to tell you why in just a moment. The property that the city has requested to change to commercial has been zoned residential since 1912, and I want to correct the record about the dates and what's happened here. And there once stood a private residence there where William Louis and Anna Louise James and 3 small children lived. The current owner demolished the house and built a small office, not in 61, but in 1966, and it was a very small office. And they were given this non-conforming use because they were in a residential neighborhood. In the 1990s, they more than, well, I don't know specifically, but they expanded the building, and it's much larger today than it was then. And most church properties receive the same consideration. However, your zoning ordinance is very clear about non-conforming uses. If you'll look in section 6, paragraph 2.4, it says, when a non-conforming use of a structure is discontinued or abandoned for 90 calendar days, the use shall not be resumed, and the subsequent use shall conform to the regulations for which the structure is located. Well, it's a residential zoning, so it should revert back to residential. So now that the original owner of the property, the Greer Baptist Association, is merged with a larger area-wide Baptist group of churches, they vacated the property and have listed it for sale with a realtor who advised them that to have it rezoned as commercial to yield the greatest value. And there's nothing wrong with that, except it's not appropriate for the area. The Greer Planning and Zoning Commission heard the application and unanimously rejected, mind you, both the owner's request and the recommendation for approval by the city of Greer. because they recognize that our neighborhood has historic significance and is overwhelmingly residential in nature. Your zoning ordinance is crystal clear about what happens next. It's in black and white, and there's no common sense. It's a law, and here's the law. 11.3.2. If the Planning Commission recommends denial of a proposed zoning amendment, the City Council may reject the Planning Commission's recommendation only by a vote of 2/3 of the members of council who were present and voting. Crystal clear, case settled. The 2/3 vote tonight would require a 5 out of 7 majority needed to overrule the Planning Commission's recommendation. The ordinance does not refer nor allow amendments, changes, or anything other than your consideration of the Planning Commission's recommendation. Doesn't say anything about making an amendment and then you don't need the 2/3. It's in black and white and it's very clear. However, in section 10.9, City Council's duties are very specifically delineated. And this is what it says about City Council's duties as it has to do with this ordinance specifically. It is further the intent of this ordinance that the duties of City Council in connection with this ordinance shall not include hearing or deciding questions of interpretation and enforcement as they may arise. Under this ordinance, the City Council shall have only the duty of considering, adopting, or rejecting proposed amendments or the repeal of this ordinance as provided by law. Therefore, this law is very clear. In accordance with the City of Greer zoning ordinance, the City Council does not have the authority to change zoning, but only to consider, adopt, or reject the recommendations of the Planning Commission. Now, if you may choose to ignore the zoning ordinance, that is the law, and change the zoning to office district rather than commercial, may I refer you to section 564-2, side setback. Okay? None is required unless you're on a corner lot, and this property is, and corner lots adjacent to any residential district, and they are, which case commercial buildings and structures shall be set back not less than 15 feet from the property lines. This building is built on the property line. It's 4 or 5 feet there. So it can't comply with OD zoning.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, just one more point.
One point.
Parking. Mr. Pace recommended that this building, and this is in the Greenville News last week, this building would be fabulous for a professional office building, and that sounds nice. But under your ordinance, for a professional office building to go there with 2,900 square feet, as Mr. Reverend Bradley testified to last time we were here, you would need at least 20 parking spots, plus handicap parking, plus the fire marshal's recommendation of a fire lane. But I really appreciate y'all listening to me tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. As our public hearing draws to a close, by show of hand, is there anyone who was not afforded an opportunity to speak in regards to Ordinance 36-2013? I ask again for clarification. Is there anyone here that would wish to speak in regards to 36-2013? Asking a third time and seeing no one indicate so, call the public hearing to a close. With that, then, we'll move to our regular scheduled meeting. This is a regularly called Greer City Council meeting convened this evening on the 22nd of October 2013. Having duly been assembled, I will ask that you stand as we participate in the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for our invocation by Councilman Lee Dumas. You will join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this great evening that you've provided for us. We invoke your presence here tonight. Thank you for the privilege that you've given us all to serve and the privilege to pray in whoever's name we wish to pray. And tonight I wish to pray in Christ's name. Amen.
Having asked those that wanted to participate in the public hearing in regards to ordinance number 36-2013, are there, by show of hand, are there any that would wish to participate in the public forum session of our meeting in regards to items listed on the agenda other than ordinance 36-2013? Anyone that wishes to speak in regards to items other than ordinance 36-2013? Let the record so indicate that no one showed a show of hand that they wished to do so. With that, then, we will move on to the minutes of the council meeting from October the 8th. I'll entertain a motion that they be received.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any items of note to the clerk? Hearing none. Ms. Adams?
Mr. Airwood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Ms. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. If I could, I'd like to ask Emmanuel Weekay and Leonard Pitts to join me, please. Sorry, sir, about your name. I got a little tongue-tied there, but nevertheless, our sentiments are the same. We'd like to present to you this proclamation about Character Counts Week. Whereas with every step in our journey towards a more perfect union, Americans have drawn strength from the values that bind us together as one people. Personal integrity, mutual respect, commitment to service, these timeless ideals have guided our nation's progress for centuries, inspiring us not only to see the best in each other, but also to seek the best in ourselves. During National Character Counts Week, we celebrate the principles that keep our country moving forward and renew our commitment to sharing them with our sons and daughters. Whereas as parents, teachers, mentors, and neighbors, it is up to all of us to empower our children with a sense of excellence in everything they do, from the classroom through careers and community involvement. We must instill in them the creativity and imagination it takes to envision a dream and the drive and discipline it takes to realize one. We should also underscore the values of responsibility and service that has sustained our nation's life for generations. With these qualities, all of us can seek out new horizons and opportunities with confidence, secure in the knowledge that we can overcome the challenges and setbacks that can confront us. Whereas to ensure that each and every American has the chance to fulfill their promise, we must teach our children to practice kindness and respect. Many students across our country have experienced bullying and harassment at school, online, or in their communities, eroding their ability to thrive and feel that they belong. This week, let us reaffirm our responsibility to make our schools and communities safe places that nurture not only our students' talents and intelligence, but also their sense of empathy and regard for one another. Whereas during National Character Counts Week, we reflect on the principles that give us strength to reach our own dreams and visions, to boost others towards theirs. As we mark this important occasion, let us rededicate ourselves to preserving and passing on those basic American values in the year to come. Now, therefore, let it be resolved by the Mayor and the Greer City Council that we proclaim October the 20th through 26th, 2013 as National Character Counts Week. And with that, if you want to give a brief explanation of what y'all are doing in our schools and to help celebrate National Character Counts Week, I'll let you speak to that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, council members, and everybody that is here present. I represent our organization, Hope Network, and Family You Can Beat Them. For over 14 to 15 years now, we have been involved in working very hard to reduce or minimize domestic violence in the upstate. We cover a lot of cities, we're Greenville, Greer, Gaffney, Spartanburg, Pickens, and those are the areas that we've made a lot of impact. A few years ago, we started the same student targeted outreach program in the schools. We started with Greer High, And we've been doing a lot of work there. And one of them is what we call the character counts, just trying to hit home the 7 pillars of character, which is trustworthiness, responsibility, citizenship, kindness, trustworthiness. And we wanted to make sure that we catch the young ones at the stage that we can make a huge impact in their lives. And we are seeing changes happening. So this week, starting yesterday the 20th through the 26th, we are marking this national event, the Character Counts Week. As we all will know and agree to, that our knowledge of ourselves do influence the choices that we make. And we are sent, we believe it's our mission, to drive it home to our young people to make a difference in our great city, Greer. I feel honored to be a resident of this city. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. And my folk Bob, Ray White is with us this evening, and he is with Family Scheme Freedom, works very closely with our court system and with those folks that are helping to reach and to administer to those folks in our community that need a hand in often difficult times. And we thank you for your work in the community and for what you're doing as well, too.
What he does magnificent.
Yes, we both do. Thank you very much. Thank you. Join me in giving them a hand. Unfortunately, Ms. Worley had to leave before we finished our public hearing tonight, so I want to read this proclamation that we would have presented to her, and we'll make sure that she gets it. This is in regards to Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month, and November is Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month. And whereas in 2013, an estimated 45,220 people would be diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in the United States, and 38,460 will die from this disease. And whereas pancreatic cancer is one of the deadliest forms of cancer and is the 4th leading cause of death in the United States, and is the only major cancer with a 5-year or less survival rate in single digits of just 6%. Whereas symptoms of pancreatic cancer present themselves, it is usually in its late stage. 73% of pancreatic cancer patients die within the first year of their diagnosis. 94% of pancreatic cancer patients, and whereas approximately 600 deaths will occur in South Carolina due to pancreatic cancer in 2013. The incidence and death rate for pancreatic cancers are increasing, and pancreatic cancer is anticipated to move from the 4th to the 2nd leading cause of cancer death in the United States by 2020. Whereas the United States Congress passed the Recalcitrant Cancer Research Act last year, which calls on National Cancer Institute to develop a scientific framework and strategic plan for pancreatic cancer and other deadly cancers, which will help provide the strategic direction and guidance needed to make true progress against these diseases. The Pancreatic Cancer Action Network is a national organization serving the pancreatic cancer community, not only in the city of Greer, but nationwide through a comprehensive approach that includes public policy, research, funding, patient services, public awareness, and education, and also in developing effective treatments and hopefully a cure for pancreatic cancer. Pancreatic Cancer Action Network and its affiliates in the city of Greer support these patients who are battling pancreatic cancer, as well as those who have lost their lives to this disease, and are committed to nothing less than a cure. The good health and well-being of the residents of the city of Greer is enhanced as a direct result of increased awareness about pancreatic cancer and research, particularly in early detection and causes and effective treatment. Now, therefore, the Greer City Council designates the month of November in 2013 as Pancreatic Cancer Month in the city of Greer, and we will pass that along. Thank you very much in that regard. Council, with that, we'll move to departmental reports you have contained in your packet this evening. departmental reports from the various different department heads, give you some idea and indication of activity during the month of September. I invite you to look through those reports, and questions can be directed to the department head or Mr. Driggers. With that, then, we'll move to our administrator's report. Mr. Driggers?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. A couple of items that we just want to make sure we have as calendar reminders. One of those, of course, is that we are conducting a city election that will be held on November the 5th. Please recall that that is to fill the position for the Commission of Public Works, and that is a citywide election, and again will be conducted on Tuesday, November the 5th. We do have some activities that are taking place here on our property. Do know that the Canyon Center is continuing to be active. We have, as part of our movie series, this Friday evening we'll be continuing with that program, and we're continuing to publicize that throughout the community as well. We are continuing to work with the Partnership for Tomorrow. We've been active in working with that group and reviewing consulting groups that will be engaged in conducting the community-wide community master plan. This was last completed and finished back in 1999, presented in 2000, and has been a benchmark of the Partnership for Tomorrow as they engaged in that process. In the conclusion of this current phase of that program, they have solicited that we would participate in another community master plan that would take us through the year 2030. We have interviewed and reviewing those folks and are in a position, the oversight committee, the master plan committee will be making a recommendation to the Partnership for Tomorrow Board of Directors with a group to move forward with that plan, and we will be heavily engaged as a community. Certainly from the city's perspective, we'll be involved in that, but it will look at elements within the city and outside the city in the greater Greer community. We're very excited about that. It'll be about a 12 to 14 month planning process, but the very facility that we're in today is a part of the vision of the original community master plan, and we are looking forward to that new plan as we chart our course for the next 15 years and beyond. Also want to make you aware that our staff is continuing to work with staff members of the Greer Development Corporation and also the folks involved with the Greer Station Association. As we are all aware, parking is always a concern for our merchants in the downtown area, and we certainly understand that, and we want to always review that. So we are actively working through our planning efforts with those folks. They are updating their parking inventory. They are also expanding that parking inventory to look a little closer at peak usage of those spaces and what our capacity is during those peak usages as well. We'll be using that data to look at recommendations and proposals as part of our planning process as we continue to look at how do we improve the parking conditions in our downtown area, and if and when it's appropriate for us to look at adding spaces in our downtown area where that may need to be and when we think that might need to occur. But we're in the very early parts of that planning process, but did want you to know that your staff is working very closely with those groups in that area. You received some communication last week relative to an announcement concerning retail sales, and we're very excited about that. You will note from that press release that we had an 8% increase in retail sales in the current year compared to the prior year, and that is a 38% increase to our previous high of 2008. So we did see a decrease in 2009 and 2010, and then 2011, 12, and 13 we have seen significant increases, and again are now at a 38% increase above that all-time high of 2008, 8% increase from the prior year. That is very good economic news for us as a community. It shows that retail sales are growing and that they're strong and that they're continuing to be strong. It allows us to work very closely with our partners at Greer Development Corporation, our partners with the State Department of Commerce, with Upstate Alliance, and also our partners with Greenville and Spartanburg County as we continue to recruit and invite folks to look at our community as a place to live, work, and do business. It is a good place to do business. It is strong and it is growing, and that is good news for us to be able to report. The full press release is available on our website. If you've not seen that full release, I certainly encourage you to go to that location and take a look at it. We are continuing to prepare and to have distributed to our community notification concerning the leaf pickup schedule. We've been reviewing that very closely here over the last several weeks as we prepare for leaf collection season. The rotation schedule that we currently utilize has worked very successfully for us. Our community has embraced that. It is an enormous cost savings measure for us by doing zone collection relative to leaf pickup and collection. That's something that we implemented several years ago as a cost measure, as an efficiency measure, and again, it has proved extremely successful for us. We're also going to be utilizing one additional notification tool this year. As we are all aware, we do have the community system of notifying our community of events, and that is what we call the Blackboard Connect or Greer Connect. We will actually be sending a targeted message by zone to our neighborhoods the week prior to their scheduled pickups. So they will receive a recorded message that pickup is scheduled for the following week, giving them information about what they can and cannot put out curbside, and then of course giving them a location that they can come and get additional information. You'll also notice on the brochure that we're mailing to every household in the city, there is a QR code that is identified on there, as well as a website address and a telephone number that allows people to come to our site and get additional information about what we collect through our recycling program, as well as what we collect curbside. So we believe that we are enhancing our communication to the public. We believe that we're trying to get it to them quicker. We believe that we're trying to get it to them more frequently so that they have the information that they need when they need it relative to this program. So we're glad to be able to get all of that out. Also, I would like to ask Fire Chief Chris Harvey if he would share with you for just a couple of moments an update on the restoration project that we had. As you came in the rear of the building, you see the refurbished truck that was gifted to us a few years ago, and it is now becoming a great asset for us to be able to share with the community, and we're very proud of the work that our department and our community has done to prepare that, to return it back to the citizens of Greer.
Thank you, Mr. Greer, to the Mayor and the Council. I took time to look at it and as you came in the door tonight. We're very excited, and first and foremost, thank you again for allowing us to get something back that we got rid of many years ago. If you're a car buff, and I am, I've often said, I wish I hadn't got rid of that car. I wish I could get it back. I remember many nights sitting around the table working shift, and we guys on the shift would say, we never should have got rid of that 41 Chevrolet. We wish we could get it back. It made a great truck. It's amazing how the process came about, and the Greer connection there with Alan Cullum, and sent him an email, saying the truck's just sitting in a warehouse, nobody drives it anymore. Would you like to have it back? And what you got in mind? I'll give it to you, okay? And I'll ship it to you from Dallas, Texas. That made it a whole lot better stuff. About $1,400. Mr. Cullum has been great in the whole process. His family stopped by about a month ago when they were in town, the whole family, and stopped in and looked at the truck. We didn't have the floor, the hose bed floor completed at that time, but he was just shocked at the transformation that had taken place. You can see back here at the back of the room tonight, we've got some before and after pictures, and it's just turned out a whole lot better than we ever could imagine. We had over 54 different business and individuals that can donate dollars to the project. We raised over $11,000, and that didn't include the cost of the paint job and the tires that were done. And it's just been a keystone project that we're great to be involved in. Couldn't have been done without the help of and I hope that they were going to stay, and that's why I asked them to come. But they didn't. And Gerald Davis and Wallace Sumner. Gerald kind of been my restoration coordinator, and I had to kind of remind him some days. I said, Gerald, I am a fire chief. I got to do some stuff at the fire department. You have to wait till I get time to do something on the truck, So. But Gerald did a lot of the running around, trying to find certain types of stainless steel bolts, to many hours of looking on the internet for. You just don't find 41 Chevrolet parts at AutoZone, So trying to find front end parts for it, but the process is running real well. Wallace Sumner, Greer residence, was our fabrication person that we need something made. He stepped in and helped us make it. And, we still have the original engine in the truck. And we're just very excited and thankful to have had the opportunity. And we look forward to sharing it with the Greer community, parades and events. We've already broke ground on a couple of them already, and we look forward to doing many more of that. Again, it couldn't have been possible without the generous donations from this community, and they really got behind it. And we were doing some photo ops this past week for the business donors and put their business in the background, and all of them wanted to come out and sit in the seat and get their picture made with it too. So I just like to publicly say thank you to the council again for allowing us to take it back. I think it'll be a very good tool for us to, and just for a prime example, little kids came up down at the Village of Pelham weekend before last and had a big ladder truck sitting there, monster size, higher than a 41 Chevrolet. I said, which one do y'all think's the coolest? I said the 41 Chevrolet. So we're very excited about it, and I'll be glad to stick around tonight. And if you really want to experience what our forefathers went through responding to calls and slightly airish night, I'll be glad to take for a ride. Be glad to answer any questions.
Council, any questions about the truck other than whether or not you can ride on the back? I don't know if you'll let you do that or not.
It looks good.
Thank you very much.
Chris, hats off not only to the department but to our sponsors throughout the community. I know that there was literally hundreds of hours and thousands of dollars that were donated for that project, and it's been well worth it. And if anybody's seen the truck, they would agree, I'm sure.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mayor and Council, there's a matter of information contained within your package under the departmental reports. Both Mr. Seifert and Ms. Howell are at a professional development program this evening, but they did ask me to share with you some of the highlights of that financial report, of which it includes that our year-to-date revenues of $1,081,091 compared to year-to-date expenditures through September 30th of $3,730,831. Compared year-to-date on expenses, we are 4% under budget as of September 30th. Variance that you'll see relative to our benchmarks, we have a positive variance on revenue of $185,491, a positive variance on expenditures, which means we are under budget by an additional to benchmark by $28,642, giving us an overall variance to our benchmarks of $214,133. So of course, as you know, we do monitor the benchmarks now very, very closely. We're cyclical in nature relative to income and expenses. Our expenses are much more balanced through the year, but obviously our revenues are coming in January, February, March, typically are those largest periods. So we benchmark those across the year, and we monitor where we are year to date. Very, very good condition on those. Again, 4% under budget on expenses. Cash position, obviously we're using a bit more cash now because we had expenses greater than revenues during this period of the year, but our cash position is at $2,779,267, tracking very, very well. benchmarks, again, on expense and revenue. You'll see that as it compares on that benchmark, that it's favorable. Also, hospitality taxes are the income is above budget slightly, but of note is the expenses are under budget by 10% year-to-date September 30th, as well as on our stormwater program. Revenues are tracking as we would expect they would during this period of time, but the expenditures are also under budget year-to-date September 30th by 10% at this point as well. Again, all of this information is contained within your package. We continue to publish all of our financial data. All of our benchmarks are on our website, and we produce and provide that on a monthly basis. We encourage the community, the public, to review that. We ask that if there are questions, to always inquire of us so that we can make sure that that information, that the appropriate answers are provided to those questions, and that we get the appropriate staff folks involved in getting that. As always, we make that available to you as information as well, and we are available now or at any other time to answer any questions you have relative to the financial performance of the city year to date.
Council?
Then my last item, Mayor, would be that I would request of council to consider 2 items in executive session. One is a contractual matter and one is an economic development. Both of those are relative to property owned by the city of Greer. One is contractual, one is under economic development.
Thank you, sir. Council, with that, we move to items of old business. The only item before us this evening is the second and final reading of ordinance number 36-2013. This is an ordinance to change the zoning classification of property owned by the Greer Baptist Association located at 309 West Poinsett Street from RM1 residential multifamily to OD office district. Mr. Payson, any new information in that regard?
Yes, sir, Mayor and Council. You will notice in your package that a revised map has been added to your package in regards to the subdivision of the property that removed a little over 9,000 square feet to the rear that would remain RM1 and would not be a part of a rezoning if you so choose to approve or deny the rezoning of the front piece.
Council, questions of Mr. Payson in that regard? Thank you, sir. Council's second and final reading of ordinance 36-2013. I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Floor is open for discussion or questions. Comment?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a comment. And I'd like to start by saying that I commend the passion with which the homeowners spoke. And the reason I think that they speak with such passion is they believe in what they're speaking about, you know, which is families first, you know. I mean, when you dedicate yourself to renovating those homes that they've renovated, and those homes are truly jewels, you know, not only for the city of Greer, but they're jewels for our nation also, and I think they should be commended on that. And like I said before, I think that when we're in situations like this, because this is truly one of the times when the decisions that we make really affect people's lives, that we ought to be lean over backwards for families, you know, because it's not easy raising a family, you know, and when they put their lives and their finances on the line, it's like the gentleman said, put yourself in my shoes, and if I put myself in his shoes, then I want to know what's coming around me and my family. I know we can say it's going to be this way or it's going to be that way, but unless we're sitting in these seats 10, 15 years from now, we can't honestly say what's going to happen to those properties. So, you know, I just want to say that I commend them for what they've done, you know, for our city, you know, because like we look back on that old fire truck now, people look back years gone by on the homes that we've preserved, you know, and that means a lot, and I think that says a lot about our city, and that's what makes our city so great, is the lengths that we go to, you know, to respect our families in that, and that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you. Others? Comments? Questions?
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to say I appreciate the work that staff did in preparing this item and for the research that they provided in addressing all the issues.
Well, I appreciate everyone that came and shared their feelings, both sides, and I can certainly understand from where each side is coming from. So it's hard to make a decision when two people or two opponents are going, this way and that way when you're serving the city. We are here to serve the city, and we are here to make what we feel like would be the best judgment as it stands. And as you do look down the street, you do see numerous offices, numerous commercial buildings, like the houses there that are across the street from the association. They are commercial C2 properties. There's office district across the street. There's C2 across the street, up and down. So as I said, that building has been used for as an office for the last 50 plus years. And but I can certainly understand the viewpoints of both parties, and I appreciate it.
I would like to say the same thing. I thank you all for the numerous of phone calls that I received, even in my absence from being here. I still was able to partake with the information, and I do appreciate it. And again, it has been used for an office for many, many years over there, and I've heard all the voices. So we do want to say thank you for that.
Others? Ms. Adams?
Mr. Airwood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
No.
Ms. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Demas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council, on items of new business, we have two before us this evening. The first is the proposed 2014 council meeting schedule for the upcoming year. In that regard, Mr. Trigger's insight into that, or maybe before us?
Yes, sir. The calendar that you have before you, Ms. Duncan prepared. She has reviewed holiday schedules, conference schedules, and as you can see, we are proposing that we would meet on our regular schedule January through November, but we would only meet once in December because that second meeting would fall the week of Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and we are recommending that we would not meet on that Tuesday, but certainly that is at the discretion of council. But this is the calendar as prepared based on our normal meeting schedule, and we offer it for your consideration for 2014.
Council entertain a motion to receive.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion in regards to the schedule? Hearing none. Ms. Adams?
Mr. Airwood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Ms. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Demas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council, the second item before us this evening is the proposed 2014 resurfacing program. This is a list of potential resurfacing projects both in Greenville and Spartanburg counties. Each list includes a little over 5 miles, which Don Holloman will give us information about at this point.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I'd like to update you just a little bit as we go through the process. We have, as I've added incrementally, roads to our network as subdivisions come online and whatnot. We've surpassed 100 miles of road now, so we're up in the triple digits. But as you know, we have been over the last few years annually working on this program. It seems like it comes around a little bit faster every year. Trying to get the worst of our streets done as we go through the process. So I've kind of put a little bit more information here this year that's a little different from the others. You know, we've talked about what our cycle would be, 15, 20 years, whatever. And I've just, as I went through the mileage this year, kind of plugged out some numbers. In Greenville County, if we do, on an average, about 4.6 miles each year, we'll have a 15-year cycle. We don't always get that many miles. Some of our roads, particularly the ones we've done in the last few years, have been in worse condition. They require more dollars to bring them back up to a standard that makes them suitable. And then in other years, we can do more. In Spartanburg County, we have less miles. We only need to do, on an average, about a little over 2 miles per year to keep on that 15-year schedule for those roadways. So what I've done this year, well, before I do that, Spartanburg County this year has initiated a program similar to the one that we've done in Greenville County, where we put up some funds and they put up some funds that match what we do in order to implement the program. Spartanburg County does, however, perform their own evaluation of roadways, and they determine which ones they'll include in the program. So regardless of how much money we put up, they may choose not to do all of the ones we request. And in that case, I'll put a much larger list in there for them to peruse this year than I might have ordinarily. But we do get road fee funds from Spartanburg County to the tune of about $68,000 a year. We think and those are to be used for road purposes, for improvements to roadways in that part of the county. So we think that's an appropriate way to go in and take some of those funds to match what they're going to put on. So we hope that will give us a much more constant flow of money in Spartanburg County. As for instance, last year, the county did no municipal roads at all. We got none from Spartanburg County last year. We hope that under this new program that won't happen again. We will have some every year. So I'm including the list. I've gotten about 5.7 miles in Greenville County and about 5.6 in Spartanburg County. And as I said, I don't think we'll get all of those on the list. Typically, the ones that don't get on the list this year, we then put to the top of the list for next year. So if there are questions or concerns, I'd be glad to try to address them at this point. But I'd like to send these lists to each of those counties for consideration for the upcoming year.
I just noticed that on the list there seemed to be some in certain subdivisions that weren't as old as other areas, but I think you kind of addressed those. Some that you had done within the last couple of years seem to have deteriorated more or something.
Well, the history of this is not such that we had a good background when I came here of when things were done and when they had been surfaced. What we did do, we've started the process of just simply going out and making an on-site evaluation of all of our roadways. And in some cases, some roads may not have been built to the standards that we would like to have seen them done, and consequently they deteriorate faster. So we try to keep that updated. We try to go through that pretty much each year. We don't necessarily go through over every road because a lot of them we've resurfaced in the last few years. We don't need to revisit those. But we do try to go back and see those that weren't resurfaced. I've also gone back with historical aerial photographs from both counties to go back in the previous years to see when roads were done, if I could find out when they were done. And some of them show up on those photographs. You can tell it's fresh asphalt was done. You can see about when they were resurfaced. But simply because we might do one that was built a little earlier than another one, there again, we try to evaluate them based on the condition that we see.
And I'm not sure if I was reading it correct. The numbers over to the side, is that the density of them, or is that the ratings that you've given them, the FAR number, like the 22 and the 73,
rating, which is generally in the 70s, if you'll notice, most of, we've got a few in Greenville County still down in the 60s, which are kind of like the worst of the ones. Mm-hmm. We're getting up into the 70s, which, although they need attention, they're not certainly as severe as the ones in the 60s. The ones in the 60s will tend to cost a little bit more to rehabilitate. Mm-hmm. So we're getting rid of those and we're getting back up into the ones that should give us less cost-wise to do that. As a general, just as a general rule of thumb, and it's certainly for Homey to this, if we can do a normal program, we should expect, I think, based on what I've seen in the last couple of years, be able to have those roads rehabilitated on an annual basis for $20 or less per linear foot. Now, when some of the really bad ones come into play, that can easily go to $30 or $35 a foot. That puts a significant burden on lowering the amount you can do for the dollars that you have. So that really gets back to the heart of the program, that we've got to try to do the worst ones first so we can get those out of the way. and we can spend less keeping the builders up to snuff. But they've done a pretty good job of it. We do have some that still are problematic that of course, I hope you're seeing those in this list. And if there are those you haven't seen, all of the roads in the city are on the list. We don't leave any off, but we do try to keep that rating up to date, and we roll it around. We're keeping up with when we've done roads, so the ones that we've actually resurfaced over the last 6 years, we actually have a date for that.
What's the, I guess, the average life of a road?
Well, it's somewhat dependent on the level of traffic and the weight of the vehicles that are on the roadway.
Basically like a
But
subdivision,
for a subdivision road, it's not, if it's done well, it's not uncommon for those to last 20 years. But that's not to say that they all will. We have found some, I've seen many over the experience that I've had in my life that had, when they started to deteriorate, significantly less asphalt than we would have expected to have seen there. It's hard for me to say, well, this is the reason or that's the reason why we don't. Typically, if you're familiar with asphalt, some of the chemicals in it actually evaporate, and it begins to disappear over time. So the thickness that you start with can actually be less over time, but some of the ones I've seen, I can't account for the small amount of thickness that's left based on that sort of process. So I can only surmise they didn't have as much asphalt on them as they should have.
Right.
And that certainly can be the case. We try to watch that as we go through the process by how much asphalt we actually put down and what we require of the developers and their contractors.
And I didn't go out and have the opportunity to look at, very many of them, but I was just kind of looking at some subdivisions age-wise that were not as old as other subdivisions age-wise. And, they're probably 4 or 5 years difference, which isn't really that much, but, that they were already needing their road surface.
If you ever have questions on what we're doing or what we've got in the system, please give me a call. I'll be glad to go out and look at things independently with you. I'll show you what I look at, and I don't claim that they're all precise, that this one has got to be in front of that one in every case. The numbers are very similar, but it is a good sort of judgmental way of doing it without costing us a lot of money to perform the activity, but it does take time to do that.
Others?
No, I noticed one of the longer ones near the top is South Avenue from West Poinsett to Lake Avenue. Was that in part of the CPW cutting right in there? You remember? You don't remember?
Well,
The recent,
Yeah.
No,
because that's been completely resurfaced. That all the patch
Okay.
has been removed. Well, not removed.
South Avenue wasn't part of that?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Miller Street was. They've recently done some down on Anderson and some other they've done around. I don't believe South was one that they put into. Miller and Hubert were two that
Sure. Yeah.
They got extensively damaged. Right.
You said if it was ranked 70, it wasn't as bad as some of the other ones?
Pardon?
You were saying the rankings on those
Well,
roads, if it was ranked the
If
70?
you notice the numbers on here, generally the ranking on Spartanburg from 80 to 70 and Greenville there from 75 down to 60. What I do is when I go out and look at them, I have a little table that I take with me, and I mark basically poor, medium, and bad in several categories and give those some weight. And I've come up with a number, and if it's close to 100, it's pretty good shape. If it's down in the 50s, it's really bad. So it's sort of on that range. But in the 70s, they're beginning to show significant wear in terms of those things I look for that mean to me that they're going to fail in the near future. And that's what I'm looking for. I want to catch it before it really fails. So that's when we get into the 50 or 60% extra cost to rehabilitate those.
Well, I appreciate your work on that. I know my River Plantations residents will be very excited.
Again, that was on the list last year. We didn't get anything
Yeah.
on, so that'll take care of that. And Clearview Circle is one also right in that neighborhood that really needs some work.
There's two important points to note relative to the Spartanburg paving. One is we have been encouraging Spartanburg through their county transportation committee to adopt a program similar to the Greenville Legislative Delegation Transportation Committee in matching dollars to do resurfacing. That has been a very successful program for us on the Greenville County side, and we, along with our colleagues at the City of Spartanburg and others, have really been pushing for that. And Don's been very instrumental in pushing for that as well. They have notified us that that is their intent. So what that says to us is that unlike last year where there were no roads that were included in municipal paving, they're now establishing that if dollars are placed there to do that, they will match. So we pretty much get assured that we're going to get that paving to take place. The other thing that's important to note is that every dollar that is collected by Spartanburg County on their road improvement fee is returned to us. So even while those dollars that were collected last year, none of those were used for ourselves or to do match on road paving, those dollars went into the fund and held for us. We didn't lose those dollars. So now we have the ability to use them this year to increase our match. And that is exactly what we would propose that we would do, is that we would use last year's money, this year's money, match that dollar for dollar, and get twice as much paving done. We think that we will see a significant amount of paving afforded to us that we just did not see last year.
So the good people in Spartanburg County give us back 100% of our money.
100%.
That's interesting.
If it comes from the residents of the city of Greer on the road fee, they return 100% of that.
That's a great concept.
We don't see that everywhere, do we?
No.
Others?
Thank you, Mr. Holland.
Thank you, sir. Indeed, we appreciate it. This is a far cry from the old days, as Mr. Griffin would attribute. Verify that we're talking about the old days tonight, and it is encouraging to see us moving towards a 15-year cycle on our roads. There are very, very few cities that I know of that are even anywhere near close to trying to accomplish that, and the vision of previous councils and staff have led us to that point. I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second in regards to the 2014 resurfacing program. Any further comments or discussion in that regard? Hearing none. Ms. Adams?
Mr. Airwood?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Ms. Bookert?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Ms. Albert?
Yes.
Mayor Danner?
Yes.
Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
We intentionally chose to hold until the end of the meeting to share with council some information that we shared with everyone at our employee safety breakfast. We intentionally chose to hold it to the end of the meeting primarily because we understand that humor needs to be placed at the appropriate place in the agenda. So we thought that we would hold it to the end of the meeting, but we would like to share with the community and with all of council our support for and our enthusiasm for our recycling program around the city of Greer.
And Ms. Adams is voluntarily staying for this?
Yes, sir.
I've got a job to do too. Where I'm going, you can't follow. I've got to do you. I'm not going to be no. People don't want to kill a beans in this crazy world. Someday you'll understand that. We know there's nothing more annoying than someone talking or texting on a cell phone during a movie. That's why we developed a system to eliminate cell phone interruptions. Thank you for your cooperation. Enjoy the
So obviously, we have not utilized the talents of professional actors and actresses in our productions. We use our own team members. It's a great opportunity for us to share our commitment to recycling as a organization. We do it within all of our departments and all of our facilities. We promote it, and we are trying very, very hard to get the word out. This will be one of the tools that we'll continue to use as part of our public information channel, and hopefully we'll continue to have some fun with it. The Green Team does a great job coming up with ideas and suggestions for us to look at recycling throughout all of our operations. So we've had some fun with it, and we wanted to share that with you. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to our staff for being good sports and medium actors and actresses. Job well done. Thank you. Council, in executive session, we've got a contractual matter and an economic development matter to consider. I'll entertain a motion that we adjourn to executive session.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Ms. Adams?
Mr. Airwood?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Ms. Booker?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Ms. Albert?
Yes.
Mayor Danner?
Yes. Yeah, you better recycle.
Exactly.
He may still be downstairs.
The very same thing you said, with the word "may" in it, and just kind of went right past
Zip right over.
He is here.
I'm telling you, staff did a good job.
Yeah,
Absolutely did. They were on the mark on that.
No, he's here tomorrow, but he may not be here.
In executive session, we've considered two matters, one contractual, one economic development, taking no action in either. Do I hear a motion to come out of executive session? So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Ms. Adams?
Mr. Airwood?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Ms. Booker?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Ms. Albert? Yes. Mayor Danner?
Yes. Adjourned.
I'm going to put a softener.
All right.
Yeah.